What's going on, friends? Welcome back to another video. My name is Lauren, if we don't know each other already, and today we're talking about all of those homeschooling myths that you have heard. Okay, if you don't know already, I was an elementary teacher for about 5 years before I switched to homeschooling my own son. And so I have a lot of mixed feelings about some of these things, especially because a lot of these myths or stereotypes about people who homeschool or even homeschooling in general, I'm going to be sharing my ideas and responses to a lot of the most common ones and some that you may not have even really heard before. So let's just jump right into it. I know at the top of a lot of the lists of reasons not to homeschool, you'll see this one. I'm sure this will be no surprise, but the first one we're going to talk about is not being able to socialize with others. So if you homeschool, your kids won't have any playtime, they won't have any socialization skills, they won't know how to communicate with other kids, yada, 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 right? Well, I have found actually the opposite with homeschooling. Not only are there a number of co-ops, there are groups, there are Facebook groups even that get together, or these days have Zoom meetings every week for a number of things. I've seen art classes and Lego enthusiasts and all things that you can think of. If there isn't a group, I'm sure you can create one, and there will be other kids who are just as involved as your children are if there's an interest that they have or a topic that they want to learn more about. So personally, my son is involved in jiu-jitsu, so that is one way that he socializes. We have that 3 times a week, so that is the perfect amount of time for us to get out of the house and have a commitment as well. It does help, I think, to structure the week a little bit more since you don't have a traditional school schedule. So I would definitely recommend getting into something like that, where there's like a class or a specific meeting time a few times a month or even weekly, so that your kids do have the opportunity to socialize. And it even works to your benefit, I believe, because your child is getting to hang out with and be around people who have common interests, who may be very similar, have similar personalities too, and it makes it a little bit more special. So homeschooling does allow us the flexibility to do those things, as well as fit other activities of my son's interest in wherever we feel necessary or wherever we want to. Okay, so the second most common myth or criticism of homeschooling, I guess I'll say, is that homeschooling doesn't provide all that traditional schooling does. So if this is something that does come up in your mind, I want you to ask yourself, okay, what do I feel like is missing from homeschool that my children would be experiencing in traditional school? And then just find a way to plug it in. I don't necessarily see that there is anything that would apply to in my own experience, unless you would think like music and PE and art, like the specials classes, or what do they call them in some school, like extras or enrichment. But those are all different things that you can plug in specifically for your child, for their interests. There are different courses that they can take online, or different videos that they can watch that you can help to structure a unit study that you could build for them and switch it up every few weeks. So there are lots of different options if you do feel like you come across where this would apply to your homeschooling, where they might be missing something that otherwise at traditional school would be filled in regularly. But other than that, I don't really think that this applies. Okay. Another thing that I've seen a lot of people talk about is that homeschooling does not provide a set schedule or routine. And I think that's not true. Because when you homeschool, you have the option to set your own schedule, set your own routine. Now, I will say it might be a little more demanding when it comes to like following that routine, because just like if you're working from home, it's easy not to like get up and get dressed as you would if you had to commute to work. But other than that, I don't really see where that would apply. I find that our routine and schedule works better for us because it's not a one size fits all like traditional schooling is. I am not a morning person at all. My son is a morning person, but he does not like to get dressed. That is one thing that's like pulling teeth. He will be up and at 'em. He will probably be the one to wake his household up when he gets older. And that's just not me. I'm not wired that way. So when he was going to preschool, even before we made the transition, like mostly around coronavirus time, I'll be honest, it was getting harder and harder to get up and take him to school, mostly because I was wary about him still going, and because I think I was like that, he kind of felt it and would put up a little bit more of a fight in the morning. So now we don't homeschool until the afternoon because my mind is all thawed out by then, and I can check off all the boxes for taking care of our house first and getting everyone fed and getting our errands run and all that kind of jazz. And then by the time he has had like an easy morning, he's gotten to play, by the afternoon after lunch, that's when we plug in our homeschool routine. So even if your schedule varies, as long as you have some kind of structure of what you're doing when it comes to school, I think that you will be good to go. And your kids are flexible. They've been going through changes and having to have different overcome different challenges since they were born. They're still growing, they're still learning. So I don't think that it's fair to say that your children won't be able to take onto it and change or be flexible, because they'll be fine. And you definitely will set the tone for that. If you explain to them that you're learning how to make things work and that there will be changes, then they'll expect that, and then it won't be a big deal for them. They'll understand that sometimes you gotta try a different way to find the best solution. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to touch on was that you can't make money as the leader of the ship while homeschooling. And now more than ever, I think that is the biggest crack of you know what, because there are so many opportunities for working from home. There are lots of things that you can do while you build up your own business. There are lots of opportunities for making money, even if it's like on a flexible schedule, especially now that you know what has been a thing. A lot of people are working from home, and a lot of companies are finding that that is fine. So I would say have an open mind when it does come to making money from home. And if it isn't something that you have done before or are used to doing, then that's cool. Just know that it's going to be like a little bit of a learning curve if that does apply to you, or you may just have to think outside of the box of the jobs that you thought were initially going to be available to you. So I will plug the video right up here where I talk about the different ways and avenues you can look into for making money at home, specifically so you can homeschool. And there are also many people who just have their homeschool schedule opposite of their work schedule. So maybe they work just like a part-time job and they do like a morning shift, and then in the afternoon they'll swap with their partner or something like that and homeschool in the afternoon, or vice versa. And I will speak from experience. I build my weekly schedule around our homeschooling schedule and activities and all of that, and stay up late so that I can work when I want to and when my brain's ready to do that. And I put in the extra hours doing my own business and selling my own products so that I don't have to fit into another business's schedule and be on their time and all of that jazz. So I do think this is a hurdle that's definitely something that you can overcome. It will take a little bit more thinking power and maybe even a little bit more effort depending on what you are wanting to do, but it is attainable and absolutely possible. So I will say that that is a myth that you can't make money from home while you homeschool. So those are all of the myths that we have today. If you have heard any more, definitely share below and we can start a little conversation about those. Thank you again so much for watching. I'm glad that you're here and I hope to see you next time.